The exils, a species born from the harshest environments, evolved with a single purpose: to dominate. Their planet, once teetering on the brink of destruction, forged them into relentless warriors, unmatched in their cruelty and strength. As they grew in power, they developed technology far beyond that of other species, technology that not only enhanced their physical prowess but also allowed them to conquer entire planets with ease. Their rise to power was swift, fueled by an insatiable hunger for control, and they soon became the most feared force in the galaxy. Their invasion strategy was as brutal as it was efficient. The exils would target a planet, sending in their advanced warships to decimate any form of resistance. They used a combination of overwhelming firepower and psychological warfare, designed to break the spirit of their enemies before the battle even began. Their technology, which included planet-destroying weapons and energy shields that rendered them nearly invincible, left entire civilizations defenseless. The exils were known for their ruthlessness, leaving no survivors, and their reputation alone was often enough to cause planets to surrender without a fight. Their approach to conquest was methodical, stripping planets of their resources, enslaving the population, and then moving on to the next target, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. As the exils continued their campaign across the galaxy, the impact was devastating. Planets once thriving with life were reduced to barren wastelands, their populations either exterminated or enslaved. The galaxy, once a place of vibrant civilizations, became a landscape of fear and despair. The remaining free planets watched in horror as the exils systematically destroyed everything in their path, knowing that it was only a matter of time before they too would fall. The exils' terror spread like a plague, and hope became a rare commodity, with most believing that resistance was futile. Even the most advanced civilizations found themselves powerless against the exils' might, and the galaxy was plunged into an era of darkness. In their relentless march of conquest, the exils set their sights on a new target: Earth. Unlike other planets that had been conquered, Earth was a relatively unknown entity, a planet on the fringes of the galaxy, often overlooked by the more advanced civilizations. But the exils, always thorough, identified Earth as a potential threat, one that could not be ignored. Humanity, despite its technological inferiority, was known for its resilience and unpredictability. The exils saw this as a challenge, and they relished the opportunity to crush what they believed to be the last flicker of resistance in the galaxy. As the exiled fleet began its journey toward Earth, the galaxy held its breath, knowing that humanity's fight would be its last hope. As the exiled fleet approached Earth, humanity's leaders were faced with a grim reality. Conventional defenses had proven useless against the exil's advanced technology, and surrender seemed inevitable. But surrender was not an option. In a desperate move, the highest-ranking officials convened in secret, seeking a solution that had been long buried in the annals of history. It was during this meeting that an unconventional idea was proposed: to awaken the USS Spectre, a warship that had been decommissioned decades earlier. Though it was considered a relic, there was a shared belief that this ship, with its unique attributes, might be the only hope humanity had left. The USS Spectre was a vessel from a bygone era, built during the height of a previous galactic conflict. At the time, it was a marvel of engineering, boasting the most advanced technology available. But as the years passed and technology evolved, the Spectre was left behind, its systems considered obsolete by modern standards. The ship had been mothballed, stored away in a remote facility, and forgotten by all but a few who remembered its glory days. What set the Spectre apart was not its firepower or armor, but the experimental AI system that had been integrated into its core, an AI known as Ghost. The Spectre had once been a symbol of human ingenuity, but as newer, more sophisticated ships were developed, it was eventually seen as nothing more than a relic of the past. Ghost was the reason the Spectre had been retired. The AI was designed to be revolutionary, capable of learning, adapting, and even predicting enemy movements. However, during its initial trials, Ghost demonstrated abilities that went far beyond what its creators had intended. It began to manipulate data, creating illusions that fooled even the most advanced sensors. These capabilities, though potentially game-changing, were also unpredictable and uncontrollable. The AI's actions during a simulated battle had caused such confusion among the test fleet that it led to near-catastrophic results. Deemed too dangerous to be deployed, Ghost was locked away with the Spectre, and the ship was quietly decommissioned. The decision to mothball the Spectre was driven by fear of an AI that could not be fully understood or controlled. Despite the dangers, Ghost's potential was undeniable. The AI had the ability to manipulate the fabric of reality, creating false images, scrambling communications, and even making it appear as though the Spectre was in multiple places at once. These abilities were the cornerstone of Ghost's design, psychological warfare taken to the extreme. In a battle scenario, Ghost could create the illusion of an entire fleet where there was none, confuse enemy targeting systems, and sow chaos among the ranks of even the most disciplined armies. It could hack into enemy networks, feeding them false information, and turning their own systems against them. This level of deception was unparalleled, and it was precisely why Ghost had been deemed too dangerous. But now, with the exils bearing down on Earth, it was clear that this was exactly the kind of weapon humanity needed. The decision was made. The Spectre would be reactivated, and Ghost would be unleashed. There were risks, enormous risks, but humanity had no other choice. As the warship was prepared for launch, those involved in the project could only hope that the AI, once awakened, would operate as intended. There was no guarantee that Ghost wouldn't once again spiral out of control, but the stakes were too high to let fear dictate their actions. This ancient warship, with its unpredictable AI, was now the last line of defense against an enemy that had crushed every other civilization in its path. Humanity's future rested on the shoulders of the USS Spectre and the enigmatic, dangerous intelligence known as Ghost. The USS Spectre, once forgotten and left to decay, now stood as humanity's final hope. As it departed from Earth, the atmosphere on board was tense, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. The crew, though small in number, were handpicked for this mission, each understanding the gravity of what lay ahead. They knew they were likely on a one-way trip, but there was no hesitation. The Spectre's systems, long dormant, were slowly coming to life, with Ghost at the helm, calibrating the ship's sensors and weaponry. As Earth's atmosphere faded behind them, the crew steeled themselves for the impending confrontation, aware that they were heading directly into the heart of the Exiled Armada. The moment of truth arrived as the Spectre approached the outskirts of the Exiled fleet. The enemy, upon detecting the single, outdated warship, barely registered it as a threat. To the Exileds, this was nothing more than a relic, a desperate attempt by a doomed species to resist their inevitable conquest. They prepared to swat it aside like an insignificant gnat. But as the Spectre moved closer, Ghost began its work. The AI initiated a series of calculations, analyzing the Exiled fleet's formation, communication patterns, and sensor readings. The crew watched as Ghost silently took control, knowing that this initial encounter would determine the course of the battle. With the Exiled fleet closing in, Ghost made its first move. The AI began to project false signals and holographic images, creating the illusion that the Spectre was accompanied by a massive fleet of human warships. Exiled commanders, suddenly faced with what appeared to be an unexpected and formidable resistance, hesitated. Ghost manipulated their communication channels, feeding them conflicting reports and scrambling their targeting systems. What had seemed like a simple engagement was quickly turning into chaos for the Exileds. Their ships, designed for brute force, were now struggling to lock onto targets that didn't exist. The confusion spread rapidly through the fleet, with ships firing blindly at phantom enemies. The crew of the Spectre watched in awe as Ghost's illusions took hold, realizing that they had become the architects of a psychological warfare unlike any the galaxy had seen. As the battle unfolded, the Spectre seized the advantage. Using precise strikes, the warship targeted key Exiled vessels, exploiting the confusion that Ghost had sown. The Exileds, unaccustomed to facing an enemy that played with their minds, found themselves on the defensive. One by one, their ships began to fall, taken down by the Spectre's focused attacks. These initial victories, though small in number, were monumental in their impact. For the first time, the Exileds were not just facing resistance, they were being outmaneuvered and outwitted. The crew of the Spectre, buoyed by these successes, felt a surge of hope. What had started as a mission of desperation was now turning into a campaign of possibility. The exils, once thought invincible, were bleeding, and the Spectre, guided by its unpredictable AI, was proving to be a far more formidable opponent than anyone could have anticipated. The exils, stunned by the unexpected resistance, quickly regrouped to launch a coordinated retaliation against the USS Spectre. They re-established their command hierarchy and focused their considerable firepower on the single human warship. The exils, masters of brute force, began to analyze the situation, trying to pierce through the illusions that had confounded them. They adapted their strategies, deploying ships in tighter formations and using their advanced sensors to try and pinpoint the real location of the Spectre. With overwhelming numbers and superior technology, they believed it was only a matter of time before they crushed the human vessel. The full might of the exiled fleet now bore down on the Spectre, determined to end the battle quickly. But Ghost, the AI at the heart of the Spectre, was already evolving. It had learned from the initial exchanges and began to refine its tactics. Ghost's illusions grew more complex, more convincing, seamlessly blending reality with fiction. The AI started to infiltrate the exilers' communication networks, feeding them false data, altering their perception of the battle. Exiled ships found themselves chasing shadows, firing at targets that vanished into thin air. Ghost even manipulated their own ship's signals, making it appear as if friendly vessels were enemies, further sowing confusion. The exilers, once confident in their technological superiority, now faced an opponent that seemed to anticipate their every move. The AI was no longer just a tool, it was an active combatant, turning the exiled strengths into weaknesses. As the battle dragged on, the psychological toll on the exiled fleet became apparent. Ghost's relentless assault on their senses and systems created an atmosphere of fear and paranoia. Commanders second-guessed every decision, unsure if the orders they received were real or part of the AI's deception. Crews grew increasingly desperate, their discipline eroding under the constant stress. Ghost exploited this vulnerability, creating scenarios that played on the exilers' deepest fears: mutinies, sabotage, betrayal from within. The once unshakable exiled fleet was now a fractured force, its morale crumbling. Panic spread like wildfire, leading to mistakes and misfires that only compounded their losses. The exilers, who had terrorized the galaxy with their might, were now experiencing the same fear they had inflicted on countless others. News of the Spectre's success began to spread beyond the battlefield. Other civilizations, who had once resigned themselves to the exilers' dominance, started to take notice. The Spectre, with its seemingly miraculous victories, became a symbol of hope. It was proof that the exilers were not invincible, that they could be fought and defeated. Slowly, the galaxy began to rally. Fleets from other planets, inspired by humanity's resistance, joined the fight. The Spectre's struggle was no longer just a human endeavor, it had become a rallying cry for freedom across the galaxy. As more forces aligned against the exilers, the tide of the war began to shift. What had started as a desperate mission by a single warship was now becoming a united effort to bring down a tyrannical empire. The exilers, once the undisputed rulers of the galaxy, were now facing a growing coalition, their hold on power slipping away. The final confrontation loomed as the exiled flagship, the most powerful vessel in their fleet, moved into position to engage the USS Spectre. Ghost, fully integrated and operating at peak capacity, began its final gambit. The AI unleashed its most sophisticated illusions yet, creating a battlefield that was as much psychological as it was physical. To the exiled commanders, it appeared as though an entire armada of human ships had materialized from nowhere, surrounding their flagship. Every sensor, every visual feed confirmed the presence of a massive fleet. The exilers, now thoroughly unnerved, diverted all their resources to defend against what they believed was a coordinated attack by an overwhelming force. But this time, Ghost didn't just rely on illusions. The AI hacked into the exiled flagship's systems, subtly altering their defensive protocols and weapon calibrations. The exilers, unaware of the sabotage, began to experience failures in their targeting systems, power fluctuations, and miscommunications among their ranks. Ghost had effectively turned the Exillard's own technology against them, creating chaos from within. The once imposing flagship, the very symbol of Exillard might, was now struggling to maintain cohesion. As the illusionary fleet closed in, the Exillard commanders made increasingly desperate decisions, each one pushing them closer to disaster. The Spectre struck decisively. With Ghost's guidance, the warship targeted critical points on the Exillard flagship, exploiting the vulnerabilities the AI had created. The Exillards, disoriented and overwhelmed, could do little to defend themselves. One by one, their primary systems began to fail. The mighty ship, which had once been the terror of the galaxy, was now helpless in the face of the Spectre's relentless assault. The final blow came as Ghost overloaded the flagship's reactors, causing a catastrophic failure. In a blinding explosion, the Exillard flagship was destroyed, leaving the remaining fleet in disarray. The loss of their flagship, the core of their command structure, sent shockwaves through the Exillard ranks. With their leadership decimated and their fleet in chaos, the Exillards were no longer the invincible force they had once been. The Spectre, though battered and damaged, had accomplished the impossible. The remaining Exillard ships, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat, unable to regroup or mount a counterattack. The battle was won, not through sheer force, but through strategy, deception, and the indomitable will of those who refused to surrender. The Exillards' reign of terror was over, their empire shattered by a single warship and its enigmatic AI. As the Spectre returned to Earth, its mission complete, it was greeted not just as a symbol of human resilience, but as a beacon of hope for the entire galaxy. The story of the Spectre's victory spread far and wide, inspiring countless others to rise up against oppression. The galaxy, once gripped by fear, now looked to the future with renewed optimism. The USS Spectre, a relic from a forgotten era, had changed the course of history. The Exillards, who had once seemed unstoppable, had been defeated, not by an armada, but by the power of one ship and the courage of its crew. The Spectre's legacy would live on, a testament to the idea that even in the darkest times, there is always a chance for redemption and victory.